This lesson is all about clefs. There are 3 different types of clefs that we use. We're going to call them right now the G clef, the F clef, and the C clef. The G clef looks like this. The F clef looks like this. And the C clef, I'm not the greatest drawer in the world, so I apologize, looks something like this. Okay, and if you notice, they sort of look like the letter. That's where they came from. Think about a capital letter G. Now, if all of a sudden that starts to twist a little bit, and you can see that it ended up kind of becoming this G. The F clef, think about a fancy cursive F, something like that. And now all of a sudden these lines end up becoming the dots. And so this is really just a fancy letter F. And the C clef, if you notice right here, that just kind of looks like a big letter C. Forget the line that looks like a K, but if you notice, that kind of shapes in like a C a little bit. So we call this the G clef, the F clef, and the C clef. Now, all clefs can move around. Now, they don't because of standard practice, but back in the day, we could move the G clef up here. We can move the F clef right here. Later on, I'm going to show you that we can move the C clef, and it often ends up right there. They're at different places. Wait, why did I put that there? How about we put it right there? That's where it normally is. So if you notice, we can put them on different lines, and they mean different things. What the G clef means is, this is the letter G, it means right in here. If you can see, you can almost see the letter G right there. And it curls around the line. That's the G above middle C. So in this case, if I moved it, this would be the G above middle C. And but what we did in the Renaissance days, we would move them around a little bit, but we've standardized those. And so now we put it so that this right here is always going to be the G line, and we call that the treble clef. Okay, so treble clef, the G above middle C lies on the second line. The F clef, let me get this out of here so it's not so confusing. The letter F, the line that goes in between the 2 dots, that right there is going to be the F line, and it's the F below middle C. Okay, so in this situation, that would be the F, but we decided to standardize it to the second line down or the 4th line up, and that right there is called the bass clef. So that's why we have treble clef and bass clef. The C clef, the instruments that use the C clef, this is mainly the violas. The violas primarily read in what we call alto clef. We call it alto because middle C, this shows you where middle C is. Middle C is wherever this little, figure kind of comes in and comes to a point. So this right here would be your middle C. And so that's how the C clef works. When it's on the middle line, we call that alto clef. Again, that's what the viola is mainly playing. They do move in the treble clef sometimes, but most often they sit in the alto clef. A trombone every once in a while will go in the alto clef, especially the first trombone, maybe 20-30% of the time in orchestral literature. But there's also this one right here, the tenor clef, which you'll see a bit, not as often as a composer. That's not so pretty. I'm sorry, I'm not the best drawer in the world, but let's just go right here. And if it goes on the second line down and we put middle C right there, we call that the tenor clef. Okay, so this right here would be your treble, this right here would be your bass, this right here would be your alto, and this right here would be your tenor. Trombones play in tenor clef a lot. I would say in orchestral literature, your first trombone part will be in there, written in there maybe 80 to 90% of the time. Bassoons go into tenor clef quite a bit. Cellos go into tenor clef quite a bit. So you'll see that a lot. Now in your AP music theory class, you're most likely going to see your treble, your bass, and your alto. You might see a little bit of tenor, but these are the 3 you really have to know cold. Okay? So now let me show you how this works. And the best way to show you is to, well, first of all, let's just learn where the middle C is. So let me erase a little bit of this. Let me give you what we're going to call the ground staff. This is what a piano does. There's your treble clef, there's your bass clef, and then we usually bracket these together, and it's called the ground staff. Right in the middle here, this is middle C, the middle C that you'll find on your piano. And then all we do is your alphabet. So what comes after C? D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and so on and so forth. We just keep coming down here. This note right here would be your B, your A, this would be your G, your F, your E, below middle C. And so this works as one big staff. So if you see it written just out, though not in a grand staff, now we have our treble clef, and let's say we'll give it some ledger lines. We'll give it 3 ledger lines. We'll go way up on this high note right here. Well, all you have to do is count from a note you know. So, well, you know, I'm kind of new to this. All I remember that this is a G. Line, space, until you find it. It's just the alphabet. G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E. This would be an F. How about going below? Let's do this note right here. Now we're just going to do the alphabet backwards. G, F, E, D, C, B, A, G, F. This would be an E. And if you notice, if I had a bass clef going, this note down here is middle C. That would be this note right here, that first line down. This line would be the top line of bass clef. That line would be the next line down, the F, and so on and so forth. So they kind of work with each other. So now I'm going to go over here to the bass clef, and let's go ahead and do this ledger line. Let's do that note right here. Well, that right there is your middle C, C, D, E, F. And this E right here is basically your E right here in the treble clef. Let's do a alto clef. Okay, we usually write them like that. This right here is your middle C. So what would that note be? C, D, E, F, G, A on the line. This would be your B. So all you have to do is count. Now, if you're not familiar with these, maybe you play an instrument that uses treble and you're not used to bass or alto. After you use this and count this, you're going to start to learn them after a while, okay? So that's basically how clef works. Just for kicks and giggles here, let me find a little bit of room, and let's just find where all the middle C's are and all these clefs. Let's go ahead right here and let's write a treble. Let's write a bass. Let's write an alto, and let's write a tenor, okay? Well, these are C clefs. There's middle C, there's middle C. In bass clef, the middle C is 1 ledger line above, and that's in bass clef. And in treble clef, it's 1 below. All the notes you see right there are the exact same note. That's just how they write that on clefs. Okay, so now if you have any homework or any worksheets that you want to do what you need to do to familiarize yourself, but that's how clefs work.